You are such a butthead. And we are live, ladies and germs. As this butthead wants some damn attention right when I'm about to do a race review. Ain't that always the way, though? This butthead. Cat, quit. And then we can get this shindig started. Quit. God dang it, cat. Cat, can you please get out of the way? You are such a butthead. Alright. So, sorry for a little bit of delay right there. Old butthead knocked the camera off the table. What do you want? Want some scritches, don't you? Butthead. Anyways, we're gonna get started with the race review for tonight for the Hollywood Casino 400 from the Kansas Speedway. So, let's do an intro and get things started. This video is sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend and by Reaper Apparel Company. Stay tuned till after the video to learn how you can save 10% off of your order. Hey, what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to this edition of The Fuel here on this Sunday, September the 29th, 2024. And tonight we're going to be talking about the 2024 Hollywood Casino 400 from the Kansas Speedway. Obviously, you see the title of this episode is Dumbassery Afoot, because there was a couple instances of that in this race today. Was this race good? Questionable. Was it complete and total trash like pretty much the last month or so of races? Not really. I mean, this race wasn't bad, but let's be honest here, it was nowhere near as good as it was back in the spring. Because, I mean, that first stage of the spring race was going to be a tough act to follow, to say the least. And it wasn't really until the third stage when this race really started picking up. And we got a new winner on the season out of the deal. And another guy who ended a long winless streak. But there was definitely some dumb shit that happened in this race that I really took exception with, as well as many other people in the community. But before we get into all that, there's some news and stuff that I wanted to talk about. So, the Arca Menard series, they dropped their 2025 schedule. So, they start at Daytona on February the 15th. Okay. Then Phoenix, then Talladega, Kansas, Charlotte, Michigan, Berlin, Elko, Lime Rock Park, Dover, Lucas Oil IRP, Iowa, Watkins Glen, Springfield, Madison, DuQuoin, Bristol, Salem, Kansas, and Toledo. And of course, there was also the news that Menards is going to continue sponsoring the ARCA series for a couple more years. I think it was a multi-year extension. Let me double check. But so much fun just being part of the series. Menards announced in Kansas on Friday that they have re-signed as the title sponsor for the ARCA series. So obviously that's a big deal for the ARCA series, because Menards, you know, national hardware store juggernaut, owned by one of the richest men on the planet. And I mean, honestly, that's a big deal for the ARCA series, as much as they've been floundering the last couple years. You know, and I look at a schedule like this, and I'm going to be completely honest here. There should really only be a couple of tracks on here over a mile in length that this series needs to be going to. They need to start going to some smaller venues. Obviously, they have some on the schedule already, but there's some tracks on here that honestly shouldn't be a part of the Arca Menard series schedule. There's some tracks on the Truck series schedule that they shouldn't be going to, because they just can't get anybody to go to those races. Going to Kansas twice is, quite frankly, stupid. Going to Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte I can kind of understand, because that's kind of the central hub for NASCAR. But Michigan, no. Phoenix, well, it's only a mile long, so I guess I can see that. But I mean, honestly, what they need to do is they also have the East and West divisions. They honestly need to just combine all those divisions together into one national series. Because having East and West division races just isn't cutting it, like whatsoever. They just need to combine everything into one series, the ARCA Menards series. It would also improve the car count, I think. And they also need to start going to some smaller venues. So that's how I feel about that. So I don't think Talladega should be on the schedule. Kansas, I don't think should be on the schedule. Charlotte might be the lone exception. Michigan, definitely not. Berlin, Elko, those are small, short tracks. Lime Rock, it's a small little road course in Connecticut. Okay. I think it's also, I think that might be partnered with the Truck Series. Because the Truck Series is going to Lime Rock as well for the first time. Dover, it's a 1 mile oval. Okay. IRP, it's a short track. Iowa's a short track. Watkins Glen. I don't know about Watkins Glen being on the schedule, but, it's a road course, so it's whatever. Springfield, Madison, DeCoin, I think those are all short tracks. Bristol, that's fine. Salem, of course, is a mainstay on the schedule. And Toledo. So, I mean, they honestly need to get rid of Kansas, Talladega, and Michigan. And go to smaller venues because, I mean, they just don't fill the grandstands anymore. Of course, it probably also doesn't help that NASCAR doesn't really advertise for them. But I mean, that's just one of the many problems that NASCAR has. So, but that's something I'll probably go further in depth with the first episode of Burnt Rubber in January. But that's the first bit of news. IndyCar. Let's talk about IndyCar for a minute. And the NTT IndyCar Series has announced that they will be heading back to the Lone Star State in 2026. However, it is not at the Texas Motor Speedway. Instead, it's going to be a new street race that'll be held around the AT&T Stadium, home of the National Football League's Dallas Cowboys. Now, obviously, they want to continue going to that market. They want to continue staying in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, or Dallas-Fort Worth area, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know if adding yet another street course race is the way to go about it. Because the IndyCar Series is already starved for ovals as it is. I mean, you lost Texas. I mean, is Texas the greatest oval in the world? No. Absolutely not. But in terms of the IndyCar Series, it has put on some damn good racing in IndyCar. But, a lot of logistics issues. And now they want to go back to Texas, but they're going to be adding a street course race. I mean, I just don't get the logic surrounding that. So, it is what it is. And then, in a little bit of silly season news, Kaulig Racing has officially announced that Ty Dillon will drive for the team full-time in the Cup Series next year. And they will use the number 10 as the team is giving up rights to the number 31 it currently uses. You want to talk about somebody failing upwards. Ty Dillon recently lost his truck series ride because he really wasn't getting the job done. And now all of a sudden he's getting a ride in the Cup Series. And I think it's pretty obvious. The only reason why Kaulig Racing is doing that is money. Because they wouldn't be signing Ty Dillon if he wasn't bringing some kind of sponsorship. And this is exactly what I've been talking about with pay drivers. And it's just like, I mean, are we really watching the best drivers in the sport, or just those that are the best funded? So, not a real big fan of this move by Kaulig. Because Ty Dillon hasn't done jack fuck all to prove himself worthy of having a Cup ride. So, that's everything looks like I wanted to talk about. So, let's go ahead and get into the review itself. 2024 Hollywood Casino 400. So, stages were 80, 85, and 102 laps. Chase Elliott had to start from the rear with an engine change. So he was behind the 8 ball pretty much right from the get-go. Christopher Bell starts from the pole, but we immediately get a caution on lap 1. 4 wide doesn't really work. Chris Buescher checked up off of 2. It caused a big stack up 4 wide. Ty Dillon, Josh Berry, and Harrison Burton all come together and spin down the backstretch. Looked like Ty Dillon got the worst of the deal. It looked like there was quite a bit of damage to the 16, but he was able to continue on. However, Josh Berry just had 4 flat tires, couldn't get the car going, but because of a rule from NASCAR that says on their damaged vehicle policy, if you have contact with another car and are unable to get the car going on its own accord, regardless if the damage was minor or not, you're done for the day. Because Josh Berry quoted via Ford, "We got clipped and spun and we had 4 flat tires." I assumed they were going to tow the car to the pits, which is what I was asking for, and then they dropped my window net and told me to get out. Rodney told me to stay in because all we needed was tires. They were telling me to get out. Then they towed me into the campground, so I was just out there chilling with the fans. At that point, they said they had to get a rollback, and they finally made me get out. Rodney was trying to talk to somebody and couldn't get anybody on the phone. I don't know what I am missing. I've seen plenty of cars get towed to the pits and get tires put on, so I don't know if I am missing something or if there was something different than normal, but that was an experience for sure. And that was via Jeff Gluck on Twitter. And then NASCAR reiterates the rule is if a car is involved in a wreck and has flat tires and can't drive it back, they're out. You can only get towed back for new tires if it's a spin without contact. This is what I've been saying about NASCAR having some of the dumbest fucking rules in all of motorsports. Like, who is going to look at a rule like that and say, yeah, that's a great rule? It's not. It's absolutely fucking stupid. But then again, what else do you expect from this fucking company? Like, this is one of the many things that need to be changed. This damaged vehicle policy has quite frankly run its course. It's nonsense. And shit needs to be changed. I keep saying that over and over, but the point still stands. Because a lot of the shit that NASCAR has in place, it's absolutely fucking brain dead. And this is yet another perfect example of that. Like, when is NASCAR going to finally get in their fucking heads that a lot of their rules are just stupid? And they wonder why they get flamed all the fucking time. Maybe actually pay attention to what people are saying. That would make a change instead of trying to gaslight your fucking fan base into thinking shit is okay when it's not. Kyle Larson, Kyle Petty, Dave Moody, Kenny Wallace, Steve Phelps, Moving on. Restart on lap 7 with Christopher Bell as the leader. We had another big stack up mid-pack. But lap car took out Busch. Oh, trust me, I'm going to be getting to that. Because that's the other bit of dumbassery that I want to talk about. I will be getting to that. Trust me. Another big stack up mid-pack. Gibbs tries to take the lead on the outside, but Bell holds him at bay. Byron and Busch battle for the 4th position. Elliott starts trying to fight his way through the field, because again, he had to start the rear of the field due to an engine change. Briscoe starts dropping through the field like a rock. And then we have our second caution on lap 20. Big time playoff implications when Kyle Larson loses the right rear tire and is into the wall. And he basically struggles to do anything from there on out. What a difference a week makes, huh? Going from absolutely curb stomping the field one week and then you're barely even a footnote this week. That's motorsports for you. So Pete stops and Bell wins the race off pit road. So we have a restart on lap 25 with Christopher Bell as the leader. Logano goes 3 wide to try to take the lead, but Bell holds him off. Going to battle for 5th between Hamlin and Reddick. Byron gets by Gibbs for 2nd. Eric Jones scrapes the wall off turn 2, which necessitated him coming to pit road, probably flat spot or caused the tire to go down. Byron starts closing the gap to Bell for the race lead 54 laps in. Larson goes a lap down, so it was clear that the damage to the car was more serious than initially thought. Hamlin and Blaney battle for 5th. Logano gets by Gibbs for 3rd, and then near the end of the stage, Bell actually slips up, smacks the wall, and that allows Byron to take the lead for our first pure lead change on lap 63, which is something that happened not once but twice in this race. Bell drops back to 4th. He actually ended up dropping back to 5th at the end of the stage. Logano goes to 2nd, Blaney to 3rd, and Byron wins stage number 1. Pretty meh first stage. I mean, especially when you compare it to the one in the spring. Shush. Night and day difference. So we have pit stops. Byron wins the race off pit road, so he leads the start of stage 2. Hamlin gets by Bell for 4th initially. Carson Hocevar up to 8th as we were approaching lap 100. Then we have our 3rd caution on lap 98 when Eric Jones spins off of turn 4. And it was just a harmless little spin, so kept going, got new tires, and got back in the race. So we have pit stops. Kyle Busch and Christopher Bell take just 2 tires this time. So we have a restart on lap 105 with Kyle Busch as the leader. Bell gets underneath the Busch for the race lead. And Logano and Gibbs are trying to join the fray. So we have our second pure lead change on lap 106. Bowman gets around Byron for 5th. It seemed like Byron wasn't as good on this run as he was on the previous run. Busch scrapes the wall off turn 2 as Bowman gets into the back of him. Well, he got into the back of him as Busch got into the wall. So it wasn't Bowman getting into the back of Busch and sending him into the wall. It was Busch getting into the wall and then Bowman got in the back of him. Didn't look like there was a whole lot of damage to either of them, though. Blaney gets by Bowman for 5th and then eventually got by Logano for 2nd. So Blaney looked like he was pretty good in this race, especially early on. Byron goes back to 6th as Bowman and Truex have gone past at this point. And then Blaney takes the lead for our 3rd pure lead change on lap 142. Then we have our 4th caution on lap 143 when Daniel Hemrick spins in turn 2 after smacking the wall in turn 4. Yet another guy that doesn't really have any merits to be in the Cup Series other than, an Xfinity Championship that he only got in a photo finish with Austin Cindric in his one and only Xfinity Series victory. But he has just not been impressive. I'm sorry. So we have pit stops. Zane Smith takes just 2 tires, and Bell is the first one off with 4. So we have a restart on lap 149 with Zane Smith as the leader. Then we have our 5th caution on lap 150 when John Nemechek and Justin Haley go spinning down the back stretch. After the 7 turns down into the 42. Apparently there was a bit of spotter miscommunication where he thought that certain thing that his spotter said meant that he was clear inside, so he was going to try to send it 4 wide and ended up coming across John Nemechek's bumper. Whoops. So we have a restart on lap 154 with Christopher Bell as the leader. Bowman gets by Smith for second, but then Smith crosses him over in turns 3 and 4. But eventually, Bowman takes the second spot. We have a heated battle for 8th between Chastain, Elliott, and Logano. Then we have our 6th caution on lap 156 when Cindric tries to side draft Kyle Busch, but misjudges it. Hits the 8 and ends up spinning into the inside wall and scrapes up the nose of his car. So another playoff driver in trouble. So we have pit stops for most of the field. Logano has to pit a second time for a loose wheel. So we have a restart on lap 161 with Bell as the leader. And once again, Bell falters late in the stage. And that allows Bowman to take over the lead. And he ends up winning stage number 2, and which is actually his first stage win of the year, I believe it is. Very, very messy second stage. And at this point, I'm just like, yeah, this race is nowhere near as good as the race in the spring. So at this point, I'm hoping that stage 3 would really pick things up, which it did. So there were pit stops for those who didn't pit stop under the previous caution. So a lot of the front runners were basically at the back of the field at this point, which really opened things up as far as the third stage is concerned. So Ty Gibbs leads the start of stage 3. Hocevar tries to take the lead and does off at turn 4. So he leads his first laps of the day. A lot of the drivers who were up front earlier are now at the back of the pack, as I said earlier. Excuse me. Chastain then gets by Kyle Busch, Ty Gibbs, and Carson Hocevar to take the lead for the first time on lap 177 for a fourth pure lead change of the day. Busch gets by Hocevar for second, and this sets up a pretty epic showdown between Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain. Truex gets by Gibbs for fourth. Byron starts trying to charge back towards the front, and he's up to fifth on lap 186 on fresher tires. And it seemed like that they finally got the car fixed based on how good it was running this time around compared to the previous run. There was some intense racing in the top 10. Truex was now third, Byron up to fourth. Blaney had to pit for a left rear loose wheel and has to make an emergency stop. And the problem with this was he was going to basically have to make an extra stop because it was not within the fuel window. And then at this point, Busch has re-caught Chastain for the lead, and the two of them just go back and forth for the race lead. Just move and counter move. It was actually the best bit of racing that this race had was Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain trading the lead. I think it was 5 times between them in 20 laps. There were 3 pure lead changes back to back to back on lap 203, 204, and 205 between the two of them. And then came the final round of pit stops with Logano kicking off green flag stops on lap 207. Then Truex, Byron, Bowman, and Hamlin pit on lap 211. And it's like, well, it's going to force Busch and Chastain's hand to come in the next time by, which they did. But Busch cycles back out with the lead with 47 laps to go. Chastain was able to catch up to him. Busch actually faltered a little bit in turn 4, and that allowed Chastain to get by on lap 225 for 8th pure lead change of the day. But then Kyle Busch basically does the same thing back to Chastain, so that puts Busch back out in front on lap 226. So back and forth between Chastain and Busch with Truex just 1.5 seconds back. So I'm thinking, okay, we've got some good racing going on here. So this third stage is really coming into its own. And it's really proving, yeah, this is some good racing that we're seeing here. Then we get our 7th caution on lap 235. Chase Briscoe. I tell you what, man. Chase Briscoe is one of the most frustrating drivers in the Cup Series right now. It was literally not even a month ago that I was singing this guy's praises in the Southern 500. In fact, I called that episode Briscoe's finest performance, which it was. But now he's basically reverted back to what he's more known for. Fucking up battles for the win. Whether he's trying to go for the win himself, or in this case, was just being in the fucking way, going a lap down in 26th place. And I know there are a lot of people who are like, well, he's trying to stay on the lead lap, so that way if he catches a caution, he might be able to, get a good finish. The dude was fucking 26th. And then he ended up causing another caution when on the next restart, basically got loose or tight and had to get off the gas off of turn 2, and that basically caused the wreck with Hocevar and Todd Gilliland. And this is the guy that's going to be replacing Martin Truex in the 19 car next year. That is the frustration of motorsports sometimes. I mean, when you have a guy like Chase Briscoe, who can obviously wheel the car when, he's obviously got some fucking talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have won the Southern 500. But then he does shit like this. Back-to-back cautions. The final 2 cautions involved Briscoe in some way, shape, or form. And I also love how the NBC crew was trying to say, oh, it wasn't really Briscoe's fault. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, Briscoe was running 26th. And where did he end up finishing at the end of this race? 24th. So fat lot of good doing this fucking bullshit did him. Basically blocks Busch into the wall. He never touched him, but, dirty air is a thing with this fucking car. And Busch spins out of the lead. Trying to keep his one win per season streak alive. And had a great opportunity to do so. 30 laps left. Basically, all he had to do was hold Briscoe and Truex at bay. Or Chastain and Truex at bay. And Briscoe just decides to be a dumb fuck. So, there were pit stops after the 7th caution. Truex wins the race off. Keselowski decides to stay out on old tires, which was not a good move because on the restart he plummeted through the field. And then, of course, the caution I was talking about with Hocevar trying to avoid Briscoe and basically gets loose and gets hit by Todd Gilliland. And they basically said on Hocevar's radio that, Chase Briscoe fucking sucks. Yeah, seems like 10% of the time, Briscoe can be a good driver, but the other 90%, he's just in the fucking way. Go figure. So we have our final restart on lap 248 with Truex as the leader. So 20 laps was the final run to the checkered flag. But Chastain gets the lead on the restart as they go 5 wide going into turn 1, which I don't know how the hell they managed to pull that off. Blaney gets by Gibbs for 4th. Byron is up to 2nd. He's half a second back with 15 laps to go. Elliott into the top 10 after fighting all the way from the back. And William Byron tries his damnedest to try to get to Chastain. But again, dirty air ends up being Chastain's best friend. And he's able to use it to his advantage and holds Byron at bay to take the win at Kansas. His first win of the year, his 5th career Cup Series victory. And because of that, nobody automatically advances to the round of 8. Which means that everybody is going to be on pins and needles heading into Talladega next week. Oh, one other thing. Just to give you an idea of how stupid I think the playoff system is and why having a full season format would have been a much better thing, especially this year, compared to, having, a fucking playoff format. This is what the points would look like under the old Latford system. With 6 races to go, Reddick would just have a 5-point lead over Chase Elliott. And even without the lap for system, if we go by the system that we have today, with 40 points for a win, and then 35 for second, and then 1 point for each position lower than that. And then, of course, the stage points. You take that all into equation. Let me pull it up. The points with the current system. Kyle Larson would be the points leader with 962 points. Chase Elliott would be second with 961. 1 point separating Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson with 6 races to go. Tyler Reddick in third, 18 back. Christopher Bell in fourth, 37 back. Still within striking distance. Ryan Blaney, he's 67 back, but he's within striking distance. William Byron, 75 back. Still within striking distance, especially when you consider that Talladega is next week. Further proof that we do not need this bullshit playoff format. If we had a full season format, this would be an epic championship fight heading into the final races of the season. Regardless if we were using the Latford system or the current system, we would be having an epic championship battle with either of those systems. And not have this manufactured artificial bullshit that the playoff system produces. Again, that's NASCAR for you. Try to fix something that isn't fucking broken. Race stats. We had 30 overall lead changes in this race. 9 pure lead changes. Although we had 8 cautions, which is a bit of a high number. No overtimes this time. We had 3,724 green flag passes, which comes out to an average of 16.9 on average per lap, which is pretty good. And your lap leader was Christopher Bell, who led 122 laps, but kept screwing the pooch at the end of the stages, which is pretty wild, to say the least. Yeah, this was not a bad race. It just wasn't as good as the one in the spring. And there was also some dumbassery that really brought this race down. And we didn't have the epic photo finish that we had in the spring. Although, admittedly, that was also a bit manufactured by the overtime. Still. But I'm not going to say that this race was complete garbage. Far from it. Especially when you compare it to the other races from this month. This race has been far better than the races we've seen in the last couple weeks. Like I said, it's not the greatest race, but it was still what I think was a solid race. And honestly, with how shit the racing's been lately, we'll take whatever we can get. So, this wasn't a home run by any stretch of the imagination, but we can call it a base hit. And, you know, that's still not bad. It's not bad at all. I just wish that some of the dumb fuckery in the NASCAR rulebook could be removed, and there's also some dumb shittery out there on the racetrack as well. That kind of took away from this race a little bit. So, it is what it is. So, my final rating for the 2024 Hollywood Casino 400, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6 out of 10. So, like I said, a solid race. Nothing great, but it wasn't crap. It certainly wasn't as crap as the last couple weeks, like I said. Could have been better, though. Could have been a lot better. But, you know, it is what it is. At least it wasn't total shit. So, we'll take what we can get at this point. But speaking of the number 6, we are down to 6 races. This is the last race for the month of September. We are heading into October. And it's crunch time for the Cup Series. And then we have one last race in November. Or is it 2 races? I can't remember. But nonetheless, 6 races left. Got October, and then the final run to the championship in November. And that'll be it for the 2024 season. Almost to the end of it. Hard to believe at this point. But that's going to do it for this edition of The Fuel. Feels nice not having to blow my voice out, although there were some things that pissed me off, just not to the point the whole Larson and Wallace thing from earlier this week did. That really fucking irritated me. But next week is Talladega. I mean, that race can be hit or miss. Hopefully we'll see some crazy shenanigans next week in terms of good racing and making spectacular moves and all this other shit. Hopefully it won't be a total crash fest as it usually is. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But thank you very much for watching this edition of The Fuel. And until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. See you later. And of course I forgot to take those off. God damn it. Never fails. Anyway, see you later. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is the PackerMan letting you know that tonight's video was sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend and Reaper Apparel Company. Special shout out to both of them for sponsoring my YouTube channel. Dubby Energy is a jitterless energy blend that contains coffee fruit extract and was designed to give gamers a boost of energy without all the downsides of regular energy drinks like crashes and harmful ingredients. And there are several different great flavors that you can try, such as Dragonade, Push and Punch, Galaxy Grenade, Beach and Peach, Watermelonada, and the limited edition Palm Blom flavor. And don't forget to get you a plastic shaker while you're at it. If you're interested in giving Dubby Energy a shot, there's an affiliate link down in the description box below. In addition to Dubby Energy, this video has also been brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. By clicking on the affiliate link down below in the description box, you'll be able to browse through many of their different wares, such as hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and other cool items. And that's not the only thing. When you place an order and you go to checkout, be sure to type in the code PackerMan and you'll be able to save 10% off of your order. And it would also help me out as well if you use the affiliate link. So thank you if you do. And also, special thanks to both Dubby and Reaper Apparel for sponsoring my channel. Hey everyone, this is the PackerMan and thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more great content. See you again next time.